We have been hitting some bangers recently with my CIMA content, and today we're going to keep that ball rolling. In 2025, after the CIMA FLP program being out for the last 3 years, would I go down the CIMA FLP or the exam route? Well, you're about to find out. Let's get it. You may have seen on my channel, it's particularly when the FLP program came out, a few videos around the CIMA exam and the FLP route. And I gave you my honest first opinions on the FLP program. With the knowledge that I now have, I'm going to run through the whole video again, understand the pros and the benefits of the exam and the FLP route. If I was to be a student now, the decision and the route that I would take. The first one is the most simplest one. That is exams or the modular learning style with CIMA FLP. The first question that I would be asking myself if I was trying to decide between the CIMA exam or the FLP route is understanding whether or not I like exams or whether I would favour modular based learning. I'm going to be completely honest with you here. If I absolutely hated exams, had never been good at exams, there is no way I would do the CIMA exam route. I would make the pathway to a CGMA as easy as possible by doing as fewer exams as possible. However, if you are good at exams, if you like the pressure, if you like having deadlines to work for, then the exam route could well be for you. I myself had never really had a problem with exams. If I study hard enough at exams, I tend to do all right in them. So I wouldn't have had an immediate reaction to go in one way or the other. But it's up to you to decide whether or not you have a strong preference towards one of the others. Be aware of that and let that form a part of the decision and pathway that you take. In at number 2 is the case study challenges. In my original videos on the FLP, I documented this part and raised caution to it. I had a belief that on the CIMA FLP route, the case studies were going to be harder. And let me explain why. When you're sitting the exam-based route, you have 3 exams where you are learning bulk amounts of material for to pass that exam. You are getting plenty of practice of learning mass amounts of revision material, going in on the day and passing that exam. In my opinion, that is all good practice for having to do that when it comes to sitting your case study exam, which will be you accumulating knowledge over all the previous exams, going in on that exam day, smashing that exam. However, my initial thoughts supposedly have been proven wrong. I've put on screen now, and also Astranti, which is a CIMA tuition provider, have shared in the past that there seems to be no strong correlation between performance for those sitting the exam route rather than the FLP route. They suggest that those students on the CIMA FLP route have very similar pass rates to those sitting the exam routes. I'm going to be honest with you, I was surprised by that. When it comes to understanding the route that you want to take, be aware that it may be harder, but doing the CIMA FLP route and taking your case study exams will still provide you the knowledge you need to go and pass that case study exam without being at a disadvantage. The third point to discuss in this video is the pace at which you can progress through the exam. The beauty of the CIMA FLP is that your studying can be done at your own pace. In particular, if I compare it to the exam route, where you can sit the objective test, however, you will have to sit that deadline maybe 6 weeks in advance. You might be ready after week 4, but you've booked it in with work, you're taking a particular day of work, you can't bring the exam forward, and you've lost 2 weeks. On the flip side, with the CIMA FLP route, you can continue to progress as and when you pass each module. The progress is more continuous. There are more stumbling blocks or potential bottlenecks on the exam day process. I don't ultimately think it's going to make a huge difference to the progress in which you go through your exams, but it is something to think about. Do you want to have kind of more stricter targets that you need to aim for on the exam route? Or are you more preferable to having a learning module where you can continue working through it at your own pace and making progress probably daily by passing modules and learning new material in the CIMA FLP module? Cost is also a big one when it comes to the CIMA FLP or the exam route. And it is well known and very famous that CIMA FLP can be a lot cheaper than the exam route. And if I look back to the exam route that I took, it cost my employer just over £12,000 to sit my exams. That was without any face-to-face learning. If you're doing face-to-face learning, you can easily accumulate £1,000 of material fees per exam. Online learning, distance learning can be considerably cheaper. However, over the course of 16 exams, if you do have to sit the full amount of exams, that fee is going to mount up to a material number. The CIMA FLP, on the other hand, the Skills Premium course with CIMA, is just over £7,000. Astranti will charge £2,900 roughly per year, and Kaplan will charge £3,600 to study CIMA FLP. By sitting the FLP route over the exam route, you could be making savings of £3,000 to around £7,000. If you are on a budget or you are self-funding and you're looking for a cheaper alternative, then the CIMA FLP could well be for you. And when it comes to the value for money that you're getting from your course, well, that's where the next step is particularly important. Is the CGMA classification that you get at the end of the FLP and the exam route the same? And the answer to that is yes. You will get the same CGMA designation whether you go down the exam or the FLP route. This therefore suggests to me that they are valued equally the same. And if it was up to me to decide which route I would take based on every single point that I've discussed in this video, then I would go down the exam route. I'm not really bothered about the exam versus the coursework argument. And for that reason, I like the idea of sitting a qualification in a way that most people have done. And therefore I would go down the exam route. Goodbye.